Okay. For those of you that I haven't had the chance to meet yet, my name is Gabrielle Sham. I'm one of 4 planners from Townscape. We were contracted to help with putting together this management plan for Waikapuna. Just a little bit of about Townscape. We're a really small community environmental planning firm. We're really grateful for the opportunities to have been involved with a number of planning projects on Hawai'i Island, including in Ka'u. So thank you for always inviting us into your community. Over the past 9 years that I've been with Townscape, it's been a real privilege to get to know many of you folks and to work with you. So, and I've said this before, it's really an honor to work with this community because people are so passionate about their lands, their place, where they call home. Before I go into the agenda for tonight's meeting, I also want to introduce the other member from Townscape, Sherry Hiroka. Sherry's been with Townscape for 20 years. She's born and raised in Hilo, and she's the principal planner overseeing this management plan process. So this evening, I'm going to be facilitating the meeting, and Sherry's going to be taking very amazing notes and monitoring the chat box. So if you have any comments or any questions during the meeting, feel free to use the chat box function. And then we also have Kaleo Pike from Alakakai Trail Association with us. And we also have the County of Hawaii. I think I see Maxine Cutler, Hamana Ventura, and Jean Campbell on this call as well. They're just going to be listening in on this meeting. And so. Okay, so the purpose of tonight's meeting is twofold. First, we just want to start with a brief presentation with some background information to explain how Alakakai Trail Association and the county are involved with Waikapuna. Talk a little bit about why Waikapuna was acquired for preservation, explain the purpose of the management plan, and then the timeline and process for putting together the management plan. Then what we want to do is spend the majority of time hearing from you folks tonight. We want to hear from you, what are some of the important resources of the place and any areas of concern that you might have relating to the Waikapuna resources. Before we begin, we just have some ground rules for the meeting. Usually when we meet in person, we just have these set of ground rules. Just please be respectful, keep an open mind, agree to disagree. We don't have to agree on everything, but please be respectful. Give everyone opportunity to speak before speaking again. I do see that we have 40 participants on this call. So we just want to respect everyone's time. And then again, if you're familiar with the Zoom platform, you can use the chat box during the meeting to type in a comment. Sherry will be monitoring it during the presentation. And then when we do go into the discussion portion of the meeting, please just wait for me to call on you to speak. So a thumbs up if you're okay with these rules, or a nod. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, let's get started. So the Waikapuna property includes a little over 2,300 acres within the ahupua of Kahili Palinui and Kahili Pali'iki. So if you take a look on the map on the right side of your screen, let me use my pointer here. Okay, so the red dashed line outlines the Waikapuna property boundary. For reference, here is Highway 11, here's Nalehu Town, so Hanaho, Punalu Bakery up here. So the property starts about less than a quarter mile Makai from the highway, and then it extends 2.5 miles all the way to the coastline. To the south of the Waikapuna property, or on the map, if you're looking at it shaded in green to the left, that's the Waiohinu state parcel. So in December of 2019, Alakakai Trail Association, or ATA, a nonprofit organization, they were able to raise funds through the State Legacy Land Conservation Program, the County Preservation Fund, Trust for Public Land, and private donations to acquire Waikapuna for preservation. And what's really important to understand here, what's really unique about this property is that the county does not own it. So the county does not own Waikapuna. Instead, the county holds a conservation easement over the property. In simple terms, in Western property rights concept, so lands have a bundle of rights attached to them, right? So the ability to build or subdivide on it. But with a conservation easement, you're removing one or some of those rights, and you're permanently limiting the uses of the land. So the county's conservation easement over Waikapuna protects it from development. It's part of the property deed. So that in the future, if the property is sold to someone else, the new landowner would have to follow the conditions of the conservation easement. And then in addition to this conservation easement protection, the property was also purchased using funding from the State Legacy Land Conservation Program. So within the deed for Waikapuna, there's also another layer of protection that states that the property shall be managed consistently with the purposes for which the grant was awarded. And later on in the presentation, I'll share some of those elements of the grant award. I just want to take a quick moment to clarify that ATA is not the same as the Alakakai National Historic Trail, the trail that's administered by the National Park Service. ATA is a nonprofit organization established in 2008, and their mission is to support and guide a community managed trail. Their goal is to connect communities with the trail through preservation and community-based management. So it's really important to understand that ATA is not part of the federal government or the National Park Service. They're a separate entity from the National Historic Trail. ATA may partner with the National Historic Trail, but again, they're two separate entities. Okay. So why was there a need to purchase Waikapuna for protection? For decades, this property, as well as many large parcels along the coastline, have been subject to the threat of development, especially after the plantation closed. You may remember many years ago in the late 80s, there were actually plans for a proposed spaceport in this area. And then in 1990, there was actually an airport facility that was planned for the Waikapuna lands. And if you look at on your screen, this graphic in the middle, it actually shows the airport facility right in the middle of the Waikapuna lands. And then more recently, the previous landowner, they were looking at subdividing the property for development and creating 22 lots on the property. So there was always this constant threat of development that would significantly impact the cultural and natural resources that are so important to this place and this coastline. There were discussions in the past with state, county, and the National Park Service to see if they would be interested in taking ownership of these lands. But at the time, the entities, they didn't feel they had the capacity to own or manage those lands. So in 2016, ATA was approached and asked if they would accept this kuleana of ownership, which leads to where we are now. So as I mentioned earlier, ATA received funding from the State Legacy Land Conservation Program and then through the county's conservation easement, right? And as part of their agreements for receiving the funding, ATA is required to establish a land management plan that's consistent with the purposes of the state grant program and the conservation easement. So after ATA purchased the property in December 2019, that's when they closed, ATA, they had to seek funding for the management plan, which took some time. Finally, in late August of last year, 2021, we, Townscape, we were brought on board to start the management plan process. So I'm just going to walk you a little bit through the timeline that you can see on your screen. So this timeline relates to the schedule for the management plan. So just over the past several months, we've been reviewing past reports, studies, familiarizing ourselves with the place. We've had the chance to talk story and hear from a number of folks. And if we haven't had the chance to talk story with you yet and you would like to share, please reach out to us. and Sherry can drop our contact information in the chat box as well. So during tonight's meeting, we hope to hear from you about the resources of the place and the issues. Then over the next 6 months, we hope to start working with the community on developing ideas to steward the resources. By the third quarter of this year, we hope we can share a draft management plan with you and then finalize the plan by the end of this year. So once the management plan is finalized, ATA will have to work with the community and volunteers to implement the plan. So that was just a rough schedule for putting together the management plan. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the management plan process. To develop the management plan, we have been and will continue to review existing reports. There's been many studies, task force studies, reports that have been completed, many with great ideas that are applicable to Waikapuna. We've started and will continue to conduct virtual and in-person talk story sessions with stakeholders. These stakeholders include past and current site users, people with intimate knowledge of the place, longtime residents, people who know and have used this place. So some of these groups include kupuna, descendants, fisher folks, cultural practitioners, community organizations, laboring landowners, hikers, state and county agencies. Okay, so before we go into the discussion part, I just want to share with you some of the elements that would be addressed in the management plan. So these items were also identified as being important and of interest to the state as part of the grant funding and through the conservation easement agreement. So the Wahipana, the role that Waikapuna plays in the cultural landscape, there's a lot of important cultural sites. The marine and coastal resources that are important. We know that they're important fishing and gathering grounds for the community. Many community folks still rely on it for subsistence. Native and endangered bird species habitat. There are tons of sea caves along the coast. Native vegetation, and there's some beautiful, really trees on the property. Ranching that also helps with fire control, and then managed community access. So again, the management plan will need to address each of these elements, and we're hoping to work with you to further discuss these elements. Okay, so that was just a brief overview about how the county and ATA are involved, why the property was purchased for conservation, and the need for the management plan and the timeline and schedule. So what we want to do now is move into the discussion part, and we want to hear from you folks about the important resources of the place and some of the areas of concern. Just a quick reminder about the ground rules that we did establish early on in the meeting. So as you move forward in our discussion, just remember these ground rules. And then also, if you'd rather not share verbally, you can type in your comments into the chat box. Sherry will be monitoring it, and we'll have a record of it, and we will be able to see that as well. Okay. So again, we want to hear from you folks tonight. So while we want to hear about what are some of the important resources of the place, right? While you take some time to think about it, here on this screen are some of the resources that we've heard so far from our talk story sessions. And I'll just briefly go over them while you can take some time to think if there are other resources that are important for Waikapuna, or if you want to elaborate on any of the items that I'll be sharing. So overnight access, people share that going to Waikapuna is such a special place. I've heard sharing fond memories of spending time with family and weekends there. Folks talked about how they learned how to fish there, how to survive, and just really enjoy going there to slow down the pace of life. And folks also talked about it being a safe place for kids to swim in the pond area. Fishing and nearshore resources. It's an ice box to feed the family. The people talked about the weather usually being pretty rough, but when the water is just nice and the weather is, just right, it's just really beautiful. People talked about going fishing both day and nighttime. The sense of place, privacy, and open space. The beauty of this place is that it's untouched. Not having to worry about other people being there as well. And just being able to get away from everyone else. One uncle that I spoke with described it as being the last of the frontiers. Cultural and historic sites, there is Heiau family burials, former fishing village, the salt ponds. Many people that I spoke with spoke about gathering salt from Waikapuna and describing how tasty the salt is. Native plant habitat, pili grass, maiopilo, there's a wili, the coastal area, Naupaka, sea caves and cliffs, the native bird habitat, hiking trails along the coast, ranching that also helps with fire management, and then educational and stewardship opportunities. So opportunities to teach our kids and grandkids and to work together to take care of the place. So those are just some of the resources we've heard. At this time, we would like to hear from you about are there other resources of Waikapuna that are really important to protect, or if you want to elaborate or expand on any of these items. So if you want to, you can raise your hand digitally or physically, and I'll call on you if you'd like to share. And callers, if you would like to share, you can press *9, and that should show up as you raising a hand, and I can call on you. Is that Uncle Randy or? Oh, I see that you unmuted yourself. Did you have something to share?
Oh, you're talking to me?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
I think you pretty much covered what I was interested in.
Okay. Do you want to expand on anything?
No, just like you say, it's a real special place for people like us who are able to go down there with their families and enjoy it, I just wanted to say how we're going to keep it like that after all these.
Anyone else? I'm going to mute you.
I've got a couple questions.
Okay, sorry. Is that Steve?
Steve, yeah.
Okay, yes.
I was curious if there are any opportunities either in this area or in other areas to help out with the trails, either cleaning or repairing, or I know that the plastic beach, the famous plastic beach, is in this area or near this area. If there's any opportunities to help clean that beach and where I would go to contact.
Yeah, that's a really good question. You would contact the Alakakai Trail Association, so ATA. They have a website, and Sherry can put that on the chat box. So you can contact them, and they are trying to form a volunteer group. And so, yeah, that would be a good way to start.
Mahalo.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Uncle Randy. I think I see your hand raised, but you're on mute.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The cultural and historical sites. I understand there's maps around that marks them.
Mm-hmm.
is there a way that they can mark them on, put markers out? Because, we go down to this other beach called Lake Pana,
Mhm.
and they have blocked the vehicle access, from going further than certain places. And they say there's cultural sites there. For the public, if they could mark them and put the signs of, what they are, and I think that would preserve them better.
Do you have suggestions on how to mark them? Is it through signage or?
Signage and, and then it could be a learning experience too for, to teach,
Mhm.
even the, not only the public, but all of us who go there, what the significance of these places are.
Mhm. Anyone else have anything to share regarding the resources? If not, I'm going to just go to the next slide, and then we can just, the discussion can just, can talk about both of these. Let's see.
Hey, Gabrielle, it's Nohea.
Oh, hi, Nohea. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to add on to what Uncle Randy said.
Mhm.
I think that sometimes prior to giving access, maybe people could join on like a volunteer trip to go to the space first, and maybe have like some kind of person who can host the day trip to teach people about the place. Because although I agree with signage, sometimes signage exposes places and cultural sites or burials or other sensitive areas that, maybe shouldn't be exposed.
Mhm.
So, I mean, maybe we can kind of write that down in the notes, and I do, like, certain places it's appropriate for signage to be up, but for certain places like this,
Mhm.
maybe not so, but perhaps volunteer trips could remedy that issue prior to somebody actually going down.
Okay, so having people participate in some kind of volunteer group first, because signage might expose some of these sensitive areas, and hopefully through the
Yeah.
volunteering, you can educate folks.
hmm
Okay.
And I just wanted to add one more thing, because I'm out there in the community a lot, and I know there's a lot of talk and worry about, oh, if this is for subsistence gathering, why is there a locked gate, And so I just wanted to say that I am thankful for places like this being locked away and having this kind of access system, because if we allow people to just go and do whatever they wish and have access 24/7, I mean, when you look at places like South Point, it's beyond desecration, and so having this kind of access granting really would help with keeping the integrity and the beauty of the place.
Thanks, Nohea. I see someone in the chat said native plant exposures for reforestation is a fence line plan to build on boundary line in the future. Super agree with Nohea. Okay. I'm just gonna go over this slide that I have as well, and then we can open it up for discussion also. So on this slide, what you see are some areas of concern, and these are some of the sentiments and thoughts that we've heard from our outreach so far. So just one, community access. Oh, Jason, I see your hand raised. I'll call on you right after I'm done with this slide. So community access, there's a long way to request access. Sometimes the conditions are just right and you want to go down, but it's such a long way. And we've also heard, like there's a lot of outsiders now coming in, didn't realize that this place was so in such high demand. Fire risk, this past summer was a really dry season, so anything could have easily sparked a fire. Just making sure coordinating fire response, making sure that fire response doesn't damage cultural and historic sites. There are some concerns about the cattle possibly impacting sites, and also just inadvertent human use, people not knowing where the sites are, vehicles off-roading coming in from the Waiohinu side, from the state side. Other areas of concern, just marine debris, trash left over from folks that are staying down by the beach area, invasive plants and animal species. Goats are not really an issue right now, but they're seeing more goats coming on the state property, so that may be an issue later. Christmas berries, pretty overgrown, some parts of the property, challenging for ranching. Fountain grass is not really much of an issue right now. Fountain grass is usually a big fire threat. Climate change, drier conditions anticipated with sea level rise, maybe less beach area, and then just safety. There's erosion areas where vehicles may have to drive through, safety in the sense of fire or tsunami or ocean conditions, and then just emergency access. So that's just a quick summary of some of the areas of concerns that we've heard. Jason, we'll go with Jason and Antilemana.
All right, I'm not real good with Zoom. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, so like Nohea mentioned regarding the access, so I was born and raised here. I've actually never been there. I've been, offshore on a boat many times. So I was just wondering, what is the current access? I mean, she said it was a locked gate, but can you hike down there, et cetera? And is there anything proposed at this time? Because I would definitely share the same concern that, it's unfortunate that we all can't just drive down there, but on the other hand, it's good that everybody can't just go ahead and drive down there. So, and then from a fishing standpoint, I don't know, our family of fishermen, like, is there a way to allow it to be for, subsistence or recreational, so that, one or two parties don't go down there commercially and just catch, all the fish or pick out opihi or whatever, and then sell them outside of the community even. So that's all.
Okay, yeah, thank you. No, thank you. Those are really good questions. So I'm going to start with, you asked about what is the current access. If you are requesting vehicular access, you do need to contact ATA, and you could do that through contact through their website. I think there's information there, and I believe you can call Auntie Kaohi at Kuahivi Ranch, and that's how you get vehicular access. If you can also hike in from the state side through Waiohinu property on the trail. Regarding what's proposed for access, that's kind of why we're doing the management plan. We want to have that discussion on what does community managed access looks like? What does that look like? And yeah, so what is it, right? So that's kind of why we're doing this plan, and we want to have that discussion. So if you have any thoughts on that, that'd be great. Yes, and is there another question?
You said if I had any thoughts, so do I share the thoughts now?
Yeah, go for it.
So, I think it seems like the way it works now is that it's almost like you have something set up where you contact somebody, and so in and of itself, it seems like it would help to limit it. So maybe, even if it's like free permits or whatever, but at least having some kind of regulation, whether that's per vehicle or, I guess the concern is vehicular access, right? So if people are hiking down, they're probably not going to bring a lot of stuff, and they're probably not going to go with 100 of their best friends.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can get one permit to unlock the gate and then take 50 cars and off-road vehicles, the four-wheelers, I think that's something that I would definitely not be in favor of. So.
Okay, so limiting the number of vehicles per request going to Waikapuna.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of people is a concern, just, you know, from like a sanitation standpoint, where they're going to use the restroom. You know, I don't think we want more facilities down there. I don't think there's any right now. And I think, you know, as much as possible, that's a good thing. But definitely the vehicles thing seems like an easier way to manage it versus the amount of people, or at least solely the amount of people. So that's all.
Okay, yeah, I mean, my understanding is there is a limit on vehicles. I don't know the exact number, but do you have thoughts on what is too many?
I mean, I think a party of 4 vehicles, when we go camping, historically growing up, that's 4 families. And, you know, I think that's a fair amount. And that, you know, if there is a permit system in process, even if it's free, just for like tracking or, you know, preservation purposes, that it require another permit. So even if you're allowed to get 2 permits, I think 4 vehicles is a fair number. So,
okay.
and maybe no off-road vehicle, you know, no ATVs, 4-wheelers, motorcycle, you know, dirt bikes, whatever. So just, you know, trucks. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so just in the chat box real quick, I see a comment that says the volunteer groups should include kupuna of these places who can educate people of the sacredness of these gathering areas. Okay, thank you for that comment. And then Auntie Leimana, I see your hand raised.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce my husband, Robert, who is a generational practitioner from down there. One of the things we noticed that has not been actually covered is that Ka'u is so special. It has their own lunar calendar that the people who go down there to actually fish do it according to a chronology system that the families of that place are familiar with. So go down there and actually gather. They do it according to species. What can be gathered, what's spawning, what's not spawning. So the kupuna groups that you're talking about would be really, really helpful. I mean, how do you go and protect these areas, even with a lunar calendar, from all these people and trucks that want to go down there and camp and fish, but don't know what's actually the season for the specific species?
Yeah, if I could interject.
Okay.
Those of us who use the lunar calendar, we gather in the various areas species when they become more prevalent to be gathered. And there are many like me who go down there and we gather okole, but we like to eat okole. But a lot of people don't even know what okole look like. So they trample the areas that spawns and grows there. And that's just one incident of what needs to be gathered culturally. There are many other species that we only can get at certain times.
Thank you. We just thought we would add that in.
I guess I have a follow-up question. Do you have thoughts on how to facilitate that kind of discussion or to share that information with folks?
Those are secrets.
Well, now that it has to be protected, the coastline has to be protected. You know, what Nohea said earlier was relevant. It's not a matter of access, it's a matter of identifying the areas that have cultural significance and subsistence significance. And that's where you would need the families who are generationally from that family, from that place to come forward. And I don't know, maybe share the lunar calendar, start learning about these areas. And I have to be honest and tell you, not every single place the families are going to be willing to talk about it, because that's where they get their limapohu, that's where they get their vana during specific seasons. And when these places are pointed out, then you get people that are going to use the public access to go down there and harvest that.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? So how do you protect that for the communities, yet still share the beauty of Waikapuna with the public trust?
Mhm.
That's the dilemma that I think we're all facing.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Edie.
No, thank you for sharing that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I see Uncle Ed, you have your hand raised. I'm gonna mute you for, oh, you need to unmute yourself. Oh, there we go. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just have a few comments. First of all, I have been going to Waikapuna. I don't know how many times, maybe 20, 30 times over the last 50 years. Because I was born in Nalehu and raised there until I, became an adult. So just by way of background. I think, Waikapuna is a small place insofar as the beach is concerned. I mean, for some people who have never been there, it's very small. And so I would favor limited access because it would be very easy to overrun a place like that. For overnight camping, I think my personal feeling is I don't think you should allow more than 3 vehicles at a time down there. Because that's about all the room there is for, for a campsite. But I understand the concerns about some of the local people who still live. I don't live in Nalehu anymore, but for the local people who do subsistence gathering, maybe there should be some preference given to them so that they can access Waikapuna during the week, for example. Right now, I think my understanding is that only weekends are permitted for camping. So I think control of access would have to be a serious consideration. I'm not too sure about the people who hike in from, the Camilo side or hike down or go partway down the adjacent property and then hike in. But I think hiking, there are some limitations to hiking, so that may or may not be a concern. There should be a big concern would be people who gather for commercial purposes, because there's lots of OPE down there. And I was present once during one camping trip when a group of people from Hilo came in from the Camilo side. And over a couple of days, I think they took out maybe 200 or 300 pounds of OPE. They were very professional gatherers, and they brought all the tools with them to be able to reach OPE in what we would think of as inaccessible places. So that would be of concern. There was somebody who made a comment about limiting the type of vehicles that can go down to Waikapuna. Right now, I think you need a 4-wheel drive vehicle to get down there. You probably can get down there with a regular car, but you never get out. So I think you'd have to, I think if vehicle, right now with the condition of the roads, you would have to require 4-wheel drive vehicles to access the site. A big concern of mine is waste management. It's very easy for people to leave trash behind. I think my personal feeling is if you bring it in, you take it out. The big issue is sanitary waste. And I suppose you could put a lua in there and, dig a hole for outdoor sanitary facilities. But there would be an issue of whether or not you would pollute the groundwater. The Army has an interesting way of getting rid of sanitary waste. They bag it and incinerate it. So that would be something to think about. With respect to the historical sites, I would think that it would be good to have a website in which those places are identified. I'm not so sure about signage, but maybe that would be appropriate too. But I think there are some sites there that, ought to be identified so people would know. And certainly a website would be very educational to people who access the facilities. I think that's about all I have to say.
I just want to follow up on a couple of things. So earlier you mentioned preference for local people to access during the week. Could you expand on that idea?
I think that the people who live in, say, Nalehu, Waihino, and Pahala, I think they deserve some special consideration for access to the area, especially those who are subsistence gatherers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how you would control such a thing, but once the publicity for the area gets out, there will be a lot of demand for access. And I fished South Point for many years, and now it's, the place is ruined because it's just overcrowded. It never used to be like that, but I'd hate to see something like that happen to Waikapuna.
And then just one more question. You mentioned possibly a website, and could you expand on that a little bit? What kind of information do you think would be helpful? Or
for one thing, by the way, one thing about the access road,
Mhm.
I don't know whether or not, right now the road goes through ranch land before you get down to the beach area.
Mhm.
And hence, a good reason for locked gates. But I don't know whether or not anybody has any plans for the Mauka area between Nalehu and the beach area of Waikapuna. But personally, I don't have any objection to leaving it as ranch land. As long as the ranchers are amenable to people passing through the property. And the potential risk of their cattle being affected, negative. I also think the road should be marked, and certain sections of it should be improved, because there are some sections where the road is pretty torn up
Mhm.
by virtue of people sort of, you might say, cutting their own trail. So it would be better if there was a road that was better maintained and marked.
Okay, so marked road.
And with respect to the website, I think a website could be very informative about the history and the cultural significance of certain areas of Waikapuna.
Mhm.
Somebody else raised the concern about certain areas being particularly vulnerable to damage insofar as things that they want to gather.
Mhm.
Perhaps those could be identified, and so people, could be more cautious about how they utilize the area.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Let me just turn over to the chat real quick. Comment about concerns with ATVs accessing this property from the budding landowners. Comment, I agree, put a bag limit for species. Okay, anyone else that we haven't heard from that would like to share? And oh, I see Jody. You have your hand raised.
Hi, Gabby.
Hi.
I just wanted to follow up with Uncle Ed. I think that he had some really good points, and I was curious when he brought up the point about the Hilo folks driving from Waikapuna side and thoughts about, I don't know, blocking access from that side. So maybe that's a question for Uncle Ed.
Sure. Okay, Uncle Ed, do you have any thoughts on addressing folks driving in from the south side?
Well, I don't know what the, shall we say, the southern boundary of the property is, but for sure, vehicular access from that side, from the southern end of the property should be blocked.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, it's hard to carry out 200 or 300 pounds of OPE on your back.
Do you think like a large boulder or a fence or?
Well, I mean, you know, people have tried using large boulders to block access. And I have seen those barriers overcome by creative people who figure out how to move the boulders out of the way. I think initially, you know, boulders would be as good a start. And then if necessary, I guess you could, you know, implement more serious barriers.
Mm. Okay. I'm just going to go to the chat real quick. Mahalo nui to Uncle Ed for his thoughtful comments, very helpful. I agree that residents from the area, especially Kupuna, should have some more prioritized right to the area. Many more boulders. Okay, Jody, I'm not sure. Do you still have your hand raised or that's just from earlier?
No, sorry that I didn't put it down. I'll put it down now. Thank you. Let me add one thing with the boulders too. Hold on, honey. The only issue with boulders is that people tend to drive around them. And so we have to be mindful of where we want to put the barrier because it's either going to go over, you know, coastal plant habitat or cultural resource sites in that sense.
Yeah, you don't want folks creating new paths and possibly damaging sites. Okay, thanks, Jody.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any callers? I think I see some callers. If you like to raise your hand, it's *6, I believe. No, *9. And Sherry, let me know if I'm missing anyone, just in case. Okay. I have a comment through the chat that says the fire trucks may need to access the property in case of fire. Yes. Any other comments? Okay, well, I see that only 26 people signed in and we have 51 people participating on this call. So again, if you haven't signed in, please sign in. Sherry will drop the link in the chat box. We have some questions on there and it's important to sign in because we're going to follow up with an email or with links to notes, or we're going to send meeting notes and just for future meetings. So please sign in. It's really important so that we can stay in touch and I can send information out to you. Okay, I see a hand raised. Keenan?
Yeah, thank you for this situation. But see, the history of down there is Uncle Leighton Freitas used to be the ranch manager for down there. So as far as access to their place, you only could go to the ranch. So local people know about that. And there was never a problem. And then after Uncle Layton, it was the Galimbas, which you didn't have a problem with that. You know, and then for so with other landowners. The problem now with this takeover is all these type of stipulations. And when you go to the ranch to go sign in for go down there, you know, the situation is every weekend is full. Now, being a resident of Ka'u, I was raised down there. My kids is raised down there. And now my grandkids are raised down there. Yeah, that's our resource. That was a private resource. We knew this was coming when they started doing the whole 10-year shutdown of the Kona beaches. So that's why South Point is getting carried away. No, all these outsiders coming into this place are taking what we hold special, which was Waikapuna, even down to Camilo, you couldn't access. No, then you get Lepana being taken away. We get an individual that has no clue because he was never raised here, let alone lived here. The situation is why we talk about fire risk. It's not about the situation of fire. It's a retaliation. And that's the scary part. There are individuals that does this. Now, when you talk about the situation of lunars and stuff, this is why the locals have that situation of going down on the weekdays, because that's the part of the time that you need to go down there because it's the best time for the fishes to bite. Now, the people in Ka'u, we're not here to sell commercially. We're not here to do whatever. This is our resources. You constantly hear the government say, go back to your resources with how the situation is now. But guess what? The Ka'u community always knew, hunt, fish, you don't starve. That's our resource. We live too far away from Kona or Hilo to do any type of shopping. It's the outsiders that's been coming here and abusing the place. Straight up. I used to take care of that beach when Alfred Galimba first took care of that place. My uncle guys raised us down there. We know where the freshwater ponds stay. They showed us where the first Hawaiian church down there was. We know all this. This is, we respect. We teach our kids to respect. We teach our grandkids to respect. We're not down there for go put them on the social media, look at what we will catch. There's only why we like going down there nighttime, because the red fish is nice down there. Man, patches, avail, that's the thing. Like how people say, oh, the beach is small. Yeah, we teach our kids to learn how to throw net down there before we can go outside in the rougher areas. Why? Because it's easier to them to practice, to throw, to pick up. That's it. We show them how to take it out, throw it back. You know, you get no hair, you know, with Tree Mountain Alliance, you get Nature Conservancy doing educational situation for the kids and stuff. That is all great things.
Mhm.
The bottom line that we got to face right now is the person that is actually trying to manage this place has no clue about fishing or hunting. He used his family to understand this situation. And then this is what it is.
I just have a question. Do you have suggestions on, you mentioned a lot of outsiders coming in to fish. Do you have thoughts on how to better control that?
Well, see, that was the thing. Back in the day, we was in control. We never did have this problem. Never, ever had this problem. You could call and say, hey, can we go down tonight? There was a bunch of us workers. You know, like for me, I'm not gonna lie, I work at my little school. So we get co-workers, 4 of us. Hey, the tide stay good, the moon stay good. What you guys good? Hey, we go down. Hey, we call up, yeah, I get the key. We go down, but we gotta come up before 10 o'clock because we work the next day. But that's the things we had special because of these places.
Mhm.
But when you exploit it and you open them up to everybody, and then my son goes and then asks for a pass, oh, you cannot go down on a weekday. Sometimes he just like take his kids, go swim for the afternoon because it's nice and hot and it's fast. This is things that we do locally.
Mhm.
Oh,
So do
And
you
then if-
think, go ahead, sorry.
oh, no. What do you want to know?
No, I just want to expand on the thought. I think someone else mentioned earlier, basically giving priority to the local community. Do you think that's something that would work, or?
See, that was the thing, sweetheart. Because South Point is so damaged, locals no go down there. Let them fight among themselves, the locals. And if you look at the county police reports, you see a lot of it. People coming outside thinking they own the place. So Waikapuna, Lepana, Camilo, this is all the places that people, not because nobody down there, it's because they're not gonna be bothered by these kind of guys. They think they own the beach because they're Hawaiian. Really? I'm Hawaiian. I raise my kids that way. We do everything we need to do. We share with the kupunas that no can go. No? So we clean the fish. Oh, I live in Wahino. All the old timers that was here, they all passed away. But this is all the people that we give. We make poi, we give them. We catch fish, we give them. And they're happy. We make smoked meat, we give them. This is how Ka'u life is. But to have outsiders exploiting it, bringing down their four-wheelers so they can go crazy in the back sands, in the back of Waikapuna Beach, right there on the bay, the backside, going crazy. Yeah. You get people coming from Camilo now. Yeah. Because people find out that kind of stuff. We deal with this whole, what you call that thing every year, that Rainbow Fest that comes down. You know, we deal with all these kind of situations. My biggest concern now is when my son went go to actually make a pass, he was told months ago, oh, only April. Huh? Since when? Was never like this. It was never like this. So that's why we get in this situation, because enough is enough.
Mhm.
You know, my concern is I used to be a commissioner for GMAC, which is a game management. I used to take care of Ka'u section. See, our thing was to have access, to have, you know, because everything is about the whole, you know, native gathering rights. Yeah, but don't exploit it. Don't go be picking OPs like, you know, he said, and start selling them, because this is what they do. Enough is enough. Over here, we only pick for party. We only pick for home use. That's it. The beach is too small to have a lot of people. Now, as far as human waste is concerned, that's even one bigger problem. Because a lot of these guys say, I'm not gonna come back to next time. So they leave them all rubbish. You know, Kalawalu Bay. You know, Kalawalu as itself. If you familiarize with Kalawalu, you know what is the nickname local-wise for Kalawalu? Toilet paper beach. Because that's all you see in the lantana, toilet paper all over. So Waikapuna is one reason why it's so special to us. Because this is some place where we locals can enjoy and not worry about what could happen, like how was happening in Kona with the hepatitis B, right? Because of all this kind of stuff. Enough is enough. Like I said, from back in the day was Uncle Lady in Hawaiian Ranch, Uncle Tommy folks, Kaneo. That was them. But you go, you ask them, okay, you go. But you ask them, and they're gonna give you vehicle access. Yeah. Why we like the vehicle access on the cliffside? Because it's a safety thing as well. Because when you fish on a poly, you know what I was taught? When you fall in the water, this is where you gotta climb up. What? You know how much people I mean saved down there? Throwing them on 5-gallon bucket because they had no clue, fall in the water, calling 911 because next thing you know, the current taking them way out, having no clue. Sweetheart, I'm just fed up with all this. I wasn't saying anything for years. I work with Nature Conservancy when they wanted to eradicate Kailena. I told them the only reason why Kailena gets so much pigs up there was open the gate. Let the locals go up there. And sure enough. Why? Because it's our staple. We're not only smoked meat. We're a multicultural community. We have a lot of Filipinos. We have a lot of dishes coming out of that. It's not only smoked meat and sausage like everybody think, because they're not educated. I'm sick and tired of hearing everybody from outside. Oh, what about this? What about that? Even down to the Camilo. If you know, like me, start with Camilo. That place for years, rubbish gonna come to that place. It's just those people when catch wind, that's on guaranteed federal money because that place never gonna run out of rubbish. That current is so strong that like my uncle guys tell me the current from way before, when people from Kau, they get one thing on their head for go all the way to Kalapana. When they reach there, they weave one basket, they put them in the water. They go down Camilo, the family. When that basket reaches Camilo, they know the family and reach safe. This is the kind of situation for Camilo, Waikapuna and Kau.
That's true.
Yeah.
Enough is enough.
Uncle, I have a question. Did you sign in? I would like to follow up with you and talk story with you. I just want to make sure I have your contact information on the best way to reach you.
I signed in, but that's what
Okay.
I'm saying. We know this.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm proud of Nohea. I watched her grow up.
Mhm.
She worked for Tree Mountain Alliance back in the day when they was all going with this. We worked with all this, Ron Whitmore with the whole situation with the CDP. The biggest thing was all this will come about because of that house in Honoapo.
Mhm.
In Honoapo and Kawa. Enough was enough to have this open space. Because this is our resources with us. No, we dealt with a lot of people. No, from McFreddy's to Branda's to everybody, but we never did have this situation of, oh, no more opening.
Mhm.
Huh? For real. And then they like talk about lunar. Oh no, we know our Hawaiian calendar very well. We know when to go down and get. We know when not to. We know what to throw back. This is what local people here do. Is everybody that is uneducated, even the ones that was asking about how to get down there hiking and stuff. You see what I'm saying, sweetheart? Enough is enough.
Okay.
This is beaches that we had that was special, not only for us, but because it was for us. That, okay, you guys let go crazy down South Point and fight each other, go fight, but not for over here.
Yeah.
So if you get one manager they're taking care of down there, oh no. And as far as the ranchers is the best thing that would happen down there. Why? Because those fences and gates was locked for generations. And the cattle eat the grass, yeah. But if you like talk Hawaiian, that's what the chiefs and everybody was thinking about. Because it was a betterment for the Hawaiians.
Mm.
Yeah, but cattle gonna eat on the grass. If everybody can realize, Waikaloa, before was get rid of the goats. Then that grass and grow. Then get big fires for all these rich people. Oh, bring back the goats. Why? Because the grass is too long. This is what the cattle does. It keeps down the grass by grazing. So that's why you less the fire. If you know the history of Kau, whether it was Lani Cran, she worked with the community to call, give her a combination to go up her place. No, we did all that. We did meetings because you have those individuals that I try to talk to, and vigilantes, they're going out there, going to shoot cattle, going to make fires, going to start fires, just because. We got to avoid all this kind of situation. No? Now, as far as blocking the road from Camilo coming into Waikapuna, we also got to remember the high tide mark. We got to watch these things. No? Yeah, there's a Hawaiian trail over there. But if you know about Hawaiian trails, you be a damn fool to go be camping and putting your sleeping on the trail. We all know this over here. But when, like I said, Kona went shut down, that whole long strip for 10 years. Where you think these people gonna come for fish? Hilo side, same thing. Where you think these people gonna come fish? Development, all by Mahukona side, all the Hyatts and all the Manakea Beach. Where you think these people gonna come fish? But the thing is, social media is the worst. Rather you get all these kind of tactics or what, Instagrams or what have you, okay? Yeah, they post all these, and then freeze a bird. We don't want this kind of situation. You like ask me what we was eating last night for dinner. Guess what? Fried fish. Why? Because my grandson guys don't go chon that. No? So that's how we eat. That's what our dinner is.
Okay.
A lot of these guys on top here, that I say, wait, I watch my turn. They are here, yeah. But they're not talkers. When I hold meetings, the ones I fear, and I tell everybody this, is the boys or the young men that stay by the door listening to everything. No? Because now they're realizing and what they're hearing from everybody else the outsiders that they cannot go hunt, they cannot go fishing in areas. Now, when you take away from them, they're gonna feed their family. Now you got a problem. Because this is how they save money out here. No, whether they fish, they hunt, this is how they feed their family. And it's how they share with other families that no more. I'm gonna talk local because everybody over here is local. I don't have to talk good English. You can shut them off, you can shout them, but I know everybody listening to what I'm saying.
Yes.
Now, as far as education part, let the kids sign up with Noheas. They offer fabulous from Kailena, up with Nature Conservancy, with Shaling guys, with John Riplogo. Beautiful educations. They do it with the school. Noea does a whole summer program that I think that Keola used to do, but she does it at an upper scale, meaning she takes the kids all over from the mountain to the ocean, from Mauka to Makai. Even my nephew from Hilo came because I raised the mom as my Hanai daughter. I signed him up. And all he had to do, and all he did every day was talk about how good that program was. And to this day, he's a dad. He works and he still talks about Nohea and down there.
Mhm.
So that's the kind of programs we need to educate the people.
Yeah.
No? So you're gonna limit guys going down there. They're fine, but not the locals. Enough is enough. No,
Okay.
we never did have this problem, even with other landowners and the so-called threatening of development. That's why the landowners keep selling, because they know better. Because then they start realizing, whoa, wait a minute here. It's kind of crazy. We're gonna do that. People, you get some crazy Hawaiians over here. You get some crazy ones. They block South Points and all back in the day.
Mhm.
Respect. That's all we ask.
Okay. Thank
In our
you.
community is respect.
Okay, yeah.
No? As far as all these kupunas, I thought these guys, who is the kupuna now? Oh, the old timers. Which one? They all pass away. They all went pass away. My Uncle Pee Wee Bright Hop, all them, they all went pass away. But what I learned now, so I tell them, I don't kupuna because I got to take care of my grandkids. I'm proud of my son when he takes his kids down to the beach and show them what he will learn. No, I'm proud. I'm a proud grandfather. I'm a proud father. But when
Okay.
you limit this situation, then you're gonna get problems. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm gonna follow up with you. I see that you did sign in, but I'm gonna definitely reach out to you. I just want to see if there's anyone else that wants to share anything because we're coming up close to 8 o'clock. Thank you, Uncle. Anyone else that haven't spoken? Okay. Oh, Kaleo, sorry, are you trying to speak? You're on mute. No, okay. Okay. Let me see if there's anything on the chat. It just says, I was shocked to hear pounds of pihi being picked, even if it was done professionally. One of the prime grazing grounds was salt air also. Okay, if there are no other comments, I'm gonna just go on to my last slide to end the meeting. But please again, sign in. There's only 34 people that signed in and I see 50 people on this call. So there are at least 16 of you guys or 10-ish of you guys that haven't signed in yet. Okay. I guess just quickly, so we'll be putting together notes from this meeting, and anything related to the management plan, it will be available on the county's website. The link is shown, and then Sherry, you can just drop it off in the chat box so people can see. I'll also be on ATA's website, and my contact info is on the screen. So feel free to email me or call me if you want to talk story after today's meeting. and also Maxine from the County of Hawaii. Maxine Cutler's email and phone numbers on there as well, if you have any information relating to the conservation easement or the preservation fund or the maintenance fund. With that said, I think that pretty much wraps everything we have for tonight. We will be emailing you folks and reaching out again once we complete our notes from today, and reaching out over the next 6 months to work on discussing stewardship ideas and strategies for the management plan. So I'll officially end the meeting, but Sherry and I will stay on if anyone else wants to talk story for a little bit, since we're ending kind of early. But again, thank you everyone for signing on, and hope to see you folks soon.
I just wanted to add in, there have been a couple more comments in the chat, saying that I agree with everyone who supports Ka'u residents having preference to Waikapuna over outsiders, and that Ka'u people should always have access. It's their piko. And then mahalo for the mana'o, much appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. Oh, okay. Claire, you see you raised your hand.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to you after the meeting.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay, sure. Okay, well, thank you everyone, and we will see you next time.
Mahalo nunui. Ahui ho.
Auntie Colette.
Yeah, mahalo, Sherry and Gabrielle. Good job. Nice presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Ahui ho.
Have a good night.
Bye, Auntie Darlene. I see you.
Hi.
Hi. You're so quiet tonight.
Well, I know I agree with Kalani Dikoito.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Thank you for joining in.
Yeah, mahalo.
With you, Khalil.
You can stay on with me.
Yeah, after Paul. It's good.
Yep. Nice seeing you, Lakia.
Yeah. That's good.
I'm gonna stop recording. Let me find the button.